Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome to one of our lessons in Educademy for the SAAT, and our lesson today is functions. And while we are talking about functions, we are going to wrap up everything you have studied in grade 10, 11, and 12. Functions, it means linear functions, function of first degree, x to the power of 1, second degree function, or we called it quadratic functions, third degree functions, root functions, fractional, exponential, logarithm functions, all of the kind of functions that you have studied. We are going to go through the concepts and definitions of them and how to figure out what is the domain, range, x-intercept, and y-intercept at the first slide here. Let's consider that I have an endpoint here for this function at the point 4 and 6, and I have a point or endpoint at the point negative quarter and negative 2. So let's consider this point as negative 1 over 4 and 2, and this point as 4 and 6. So it's finite functions. First thing we need to know, what is the domain? Domain is the values that we replace it into the function. And as we can see, the function starts with negative quarter and ends with 4. So the domain of this function from negative 1 over 4 till 4. From negative 1 over 4 till 4. So the domain is all the values that we replace it into the function from the x-axis. From the x-axis. What about the range? Range is the values of y. What the maximum point of the function? Maximum point of the function is at 6. And the minimum point of the function is at negative 2. The minimum point of the function is at negative 2. So the range here is from the point negative 2 so far till the point 6. So domain is from the x-axis, but range is from the y-axis. Then x-intercepts. I mean by x-intercepts, the points intersected the x-axis. The points intersected the x-axis. As we can see, we have only one point here, which is approximately negative 0.2. So we can consider it as negative 0.2. So the x-intercept, the points intersect the x-axis. But what about the y-intercept? The y-intercept are the points intersect the y-axis. The points intersect the y-axis, and it's clear for us that it's 2 here. So from this slide, we learn it, how to find the domain, how to find the range, how to find the x-intercept, and how to find the y-intercept. By using the same graph, let me enlarge it for you. By using the same graph, I want to find the increasing interval. And the meaning of interval that you should write your answer in interval bracket. And the decreasing interval. To decide what the increasing and decreasing, you come from the left of the function. So I come from here. As we can notice that the yellow color is moving up. And then the green color is going down. Then again, the yellow color is going up. So I have two intervals where the function is increasing and one interval for green where the function is decreasing. So this green is decreasing, but this yellow is increasing function. After we decide where the function is increasing or decreasing, we go to the x-axis. As we can see, the function is increasing from negative quarter, as we said, this point so far till 1. So from negative quarter, and usually we write it as open point, from negative quarter to 1, and 1 also will be open because it's a turning point, union the other interval from 3 to 4. So here is the two interval where the function was increasing. But for decreasing is the green area, which start with 1 and end up with 3. So 1 and 3. So this called increasing and decreasing. But what if the function is a straight line parallel to the y-axis? If the function is a straight line parallel to the y-axis, we called it a constant function. Let's go to question number 7. What is f of 0? And the meaning of f of a number is replacing this number in the function. Replace x with 0. F of 0, f of 2, f of 3, it means replace x in the function with this number. F of 0, we go to the point 0, we go up, we will find that the curve intersects the y-axis at 2. So f of 0 is equal to, again, it's the order pair 0 and 2. The order pair 0 and 2. Next, f of a is equal to 6. And f of a is equal to 6, it means that y is equal to 6. So if we go to y, we will find that y intersects the function at 2 points. The first point at x is equal 1, and the second point at x is equal 4. So a is equal 1 or a is equal to 4. Again, f of 1 is equal to 6. F of 4 is equal to 6. So there is a big difference between find f of a number and find the value of a or x that satisfy a number. There is a difference between them. The first, number 7, I figured it out from the x-axis. But for number 8, I figured it out from the y-axis. Finally, the last slide for this graph, how we can define if the function is even, odd, or neither, or how we can find if the function is a constant. As we can see, the function here is not constant at all. Why? Because I don't have any straight line parallel to the x-axis. So there is no interval that represents the constant function here. So it's a phi. I don't have any interval. But for even, odd, or neither, even if the function reflects or the graph of the function reflects on the y-axis, like what? Like this one, for example. If the function is reflected about the y-axis, it's an even function. And when the function is odd, the function is odd if it's reflected on, not the x-axis, on the origin. What does mean on the origin, Mr. Hisham? Like the cubic, look, like the cubic. The cubic is reflected about the y-axis. You will find the function drawing in the first or the third, second, and fourth. So the function at the front of us is neither. It's neither even nor odd. It's neither even nor odd. Now, f of x has a maximum value. Here is the maximum value. 2 points for the maximum value. Let's consider that this is the maximum point. So this maximum point at 1 and 6. And the minimum point of the curve is the last point here at -1/4 and 2. So the maximum value of x at 1 and the maximum value of y at 6. The minimum value of x at -1/4 and the minimum value of the function is at x is equal -2. I don't know why I insist to write it 2. It's -2. So from these 12 questions, we learned how to find the range, domain, maximum, increasing, decreasing, x-intercept, y-intercept of a given graph function, for a given graph function. We still continue talking about functions, and we start with the first questions. I have a given functions, and the given function 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 4 and 5. And he is asking for the domain. Domain from the graph is the x-axis. And domain from the order pair is the values of x. So as we can see that the values of x here are 1, 3, and 4. So the right answer is B. 1, 3, and 4, we called it the domain. And notice that we wrote it the domain here with a set brackets. Set brackets, not an interval. Because I need only 1 and 3 and 4, not all the numbers between 1 and 3 or 3 and 4. Number 14, what is the range of the given function? And the range is the value of y. And as we can see, values of y here are -6, -4, and 14. -6, -4, and 14. Mr. Hisham, if it's in the test, -4, 14, and -6. Order doesn't matter in the sets. Orders doesn't matter in the sets. It doesn't matter the order. And there is no repetition. Yani, you can't write 4, 4 or 16, 16. You write the element once. This is for the range. For number 15. And number 15 is an absolute value. absolute value. What do I need to know about the absolute value functions? Let me explain for you here. Absolute value of -3 is equal +3, and absolute value of 3 is equal to 3. So the value inside the absolute value could be negative, could be positive, but the answer of the absolute value is always positive. Answer of the absolute value is always positive. And for your information, the graph of absolute value of x is letter V, passes through the origin. As we can notice that the whole graph is above the x-axis. The whole graph is above the x-axis. Okay? Now, what inside the bracket? What inside the absolute value? Could be positive, could be negative, but the answer can be positive only. He asked him for find f of -1, and the meaning of f of -1 is replace x with -1. So let's go 1 minus -1, and I insist to put bracket here so you may not do a silly mistake by write it 1 minus 1. So negative by negative is positive, and 1 plus 1 is 2. And of course, the absolute value of 2 is 2. This is a small thing about the absolute value, what the graph of the absolute value, what is the function and the value of the absolute value, and how to find f of -1. This function, we called it a piecewise function. A piecewise function. What is the piecewise function or piecewise function? It's a function that divided into 2 or 3 intervals. If you are looking for any number that is smaller than 2, you are going to replace it here. For example, if you want to find f of 1, you are going to replace x in the first equation with 1. And by the way, this is x squared minus 4x. So it's 1 squared minus 4 by 1. So it's -3. If you wanted to find f of -2, you are going to replace -2 squared minus 4 times -2. -2 squared is 4 plus 8 is equal to 12. But any number that it's greater than or equal to 2, greater than or equal to 2, you are going to replace in the second equation. So if I wanted to find f of 2, I'm going to replace it in the second one, which is x squared plus 4. So 2 squared is 4, and 4 plus 4 is 8. Unfortunately, you can't find the answer, so change one of the answers to 8. But what if I wanted to find f of 5? You are going to replace it in the second equation. So it's 5 squared plus 4, which is equal to 29. So a piecewise function, it's a function that divided into 2 or 3 intervals of functions. You are going to follow the given function if it's asking for f of 1 or f of -2, f of 2 or f of 5. Number 18. What is this? What is this? What is this? This is called integer function. Integers functions. And what does mean integer functions? That this bracket, which is the same as the interval, is it change any number in it to the closest smaller integer. It's a little bit difficult. 0, 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, and so on. What if I wanted to find the integers of 1.3? So you go to 1.3, which is here. What is the smallest, closest integer to it? 1. So the absolute value, the integer value of 1.3 is 1. But what if it's -1.3? -1.3 is here. The smallest, closest number is the number before it. So it's equal to -2. For example, what is 0.7? You stopped here. The closest, smallest integer to 0.7 is 0. So as we can see that all the values is integers. So all the answers is going to be integers, right? And if you add 1, it's going to be integers. So what is the domain? Domain is the values of x. You can replace it in the function. And in these questions, the domain is R. Why? Because I can replace x with any number, fraction, decimal, whole, but the answer is going to be integers. So the range for question number 18, the range here is going to be integer, set of integers, whole, number, positive and negative, and contains also 0. But the domain values, I can replace it in x, is equal to what? Equal to r. What is n? Natural number. What is w? Is the whole number starts with 1. The domain of the function absolute value of x minus 3 plus 4. As I said before, I can replace x in the absolute value, inside the absolute value, with any number in my mind, right? So the right answer is r. The right answer is r. So the domain is r. But let me give you more information, extra information for this one. This one, x minus 3 plus 4. It means that the vertex changed the sign of negative 3 into 3, put down the 4, so 3 and 4. So you go to the point 3 and 4 on the x-axis and the y-axis, order pair, you draw letter V. So the domain is all the number, but the range start from the point 4 to infinity. So this 4 to infinity is represent the range. So notice that in question 19, I represented for you the difference between domain, values of x, and range, the values of y. For the function f of x is equal to the absolute value of x plus 2, we know that f of x equal absolute value of x is letter v that passes through the ocean. But f of x equal absolute value of x plus 2, it means that you move to the left 2 units. So here is the vertex, negative 2 and 0. So the minimum point you started with in the y-axis is 0. Till what? Till infinity. So the range is from 0 to infinity. From 0 to infinity is the non-negative real numbers. Non-negative real number. It's all positive. And we said a few minutes ago that the absolute value will never give me a negative value. It will always give me a positive value. Now, another kind of questions on the functions. As we can see, these functions, the number of zeros and zeros, it means intersection point with x-axis. What are the intersection points of x-axis? As we can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have five points intersected with the x-axis, and notice that the word zeros or set of zeros, it means the intersection point with the x-axis. So it's a definition for the word zeros.